I am sitting in Sedona. Uncharacteristically for Arizona, it is raining a lot today. So I thought I would do a little check in, a little video, something that I just wanted to talk about as a reminder for the internet. This one will be a little bit different than most videos that I have done before, but I think that's really important and it's something that I've been feeling really deeply this week. So it's kind of true to what I'm going through and what I'm experiencing. I had a very interesting week, and it's one of those kinds that when you look at it on paper, it looks like it was a very good week. I got to relax a lot. I got to sleep. I got to eat good food. I enjoyed good weather back in Phoenix, and I'm enjoying beautiful views here in Sedona. And it's one of those on paper, looks like a great week. But for some reason on Friday and Saturday, I was just really down in the dumps and I couldn't figure out what was the root of that feeling. And one of the joys of being a Christian that I have not really talked about here is how you get through moments like that, because inevitably we all will have a low moment in life. I was trying to get to the root of what the issue was because I wasn't 100% sure. And it can kind of be narrowed down to two things. It can be narrowed down to circumstances. I am upset because X, Y, and Z is happening, or hormones, especially as a woman. It's like, you know what I mean? This week's little slump, I deduced to a little bit of both. I'm in a moment where, just as a woman, I'm really struggling with resting. I'm not good at resting. I'm not good at sitting. And so when I do, I always feel guilty for relaxing. I feel really bad about, especially in this moment, trying to make plans to go to Los Angeles and feeling like I'm failing at that. And I really need to just do everything I can do, but it's getting to be a lot. And then I'm also dealing with circumstances, which the circumstances of this current season are that I'm trying to find housing and I'm trying to find a job in Los Angeles. And it's just not going as easy as I thought it would go. And I'm getting frustrated. It's just the circumstance that's happening right now. But I think something that is really unique about being a Christ follower is that being able to look at something outside of yourself and not only get a perspective outside of just you and what's in your brain and what's in your heart, but also being able to ask questions of God, someone that you trust has your best interest in mind, loves you deeply, cares about your future. But the Christian viewpoint of it all is that there's a grander view than just me, myself, right now, today. There's eternity, and there's the message of hope and the message of the gospel and a bigger story that I'm woven into. And whether it is just hormonally or it's circumstantial or it's the weather because we're in the middle of winter and that's really tough too. These are kind of the steps that I take to get through that. First thing I do is I sit and I pray. And when I pray, I'm really specific. And to be frank, I'm also sometimes just a little bit of a lunatic. I will say everything I'm feeling and I will acknowledge, even if I don't believe that it's true logically, I will acknowledge that I'm feeling it. God, I feel like you let me come to Phoenix and you're leaving me here and I'm all by myself. And I logically know that's not true based on your character, but that's what I feel. So I sit in prayer and I'm really candid and I'm really honest, but also respectful because it is God. And that's something that I've actually had to grow in, is the respectful part. Because sometimes I'm like, you don't even love me. You don't even care about me. I'm like speaking all this stuff and I'm like, how disrespectful is that? The second thing I do is I get in the Word. I'll be so frank. Saturday was the first time I've been in the Word in a couple weeks. It's been a rough period. And the thing is that I've had time to read. I've just chosen to prioritize other things. So I got in the Word. I read Proverbs 1 through 3, and it's all about wisdom and the joy of having wisdom. And I'll be very frank. When I was reading it, I was like, yeah. This isn't doing anything for me. Like, this is not helping me in my current season. I was really kind of being a little sassy. The third thing I do is I talk to somebody or share that perspective with somebody else. This is for a couple of reasons. One, to verbally process. Two, to get out of my own head. And three, I'm only going to people who I know will tell me the truth and who will lead me back to what is true about my life, given who Christ is and what he's done for me. So Saturday, I prayed and I was honest, and I was like, I'm really frustrated. I feel like you brought me here just to leave me in Phoenix. This is so stupid. And no offense to the people from Phoenix, I'm just not having the time of my life here. This obviously isn't the city I prayed about and the city I was looking forward to. Los Angeles was. And I'm just praying about also work and what I should be doing for work because I feel a little lost. I said this in a recent vlog, but I think I need to reevaluate my work because not one person enjoys their work every single day. I'm kind of at a point where I know I'm good at social media. I know I thrive at it. I know I can come up with concepts like this. I know that I am collaborative. I've had experience that shows that I'm good at that type of work. I'm not sure it's the most life-giving work for me right now. And the third thing that I did was I actually called Linnea. Linnea's in the middle of a move herself, and I just finished a majority of my cross-country move. And so she had time to talk. Having that conversation with Linnea was really good because I think we're both in seasons where we're kind of like, what are we doing? Like, we just made huge decisions and we're uprooting our whole lives, and it's new and it's exciting, but it's also kind of scary. It was also good to verbally process with her that sometimes I'm feeling kind of frustrated because I feel like the work I do doesn't matter. This is not the first time Linnea and I have had that conversation. We were having this conversation back when I was working corporate, when I was in college. I feel like we always like revisit this conversation at least once a year. And also a thing that Linnea brought up was we were talking about we'll be 30 halfway through this year. My birthday is the end of June. Hers is the beginning of July. We're about a week apart. So we were reflecting a little bit on our 20s in this conversation. And we both were acknowledging when we were 23 and we came out of college, we wanted titles. We wanted jobs that had good titles. We wanted jobs that would make other people feel like we were important, that we were a valuable part of a team. And now we're kind of at a point where we've done the career thing and it was good and the money's great. Let me just say, if you're just looking for money and you're willing to just grind for like 2 years, corporate's awesome. But we're both at a point where we are like, what is the next step of my life? Like, what does the next year, 5 years look like for me? What do I want to be doing? What is my trajectory? And the reality is, those titles don't really matter to us anymore. We're kind of at points where we've worked. It's not all it was cracked up to be. And she gave a really good reminder where she was like, I think all we really need is a job where we can have some savings and some cushion. And then from there, it doesn't really matter what we do. She had 3 L's: labor, leisure, and love. So when I wake up every single day, am I working as if I'm working for the Lord at whatever I'm doing? Whether that is climbing the corporate ladder, being a stay-at-home parent, working in a trade, working at a coffee shop, doing design work, being in IT, being an engineer, whatever I go and I do, am I working at it as if I'm working for the Lord? 2, am I enjoying the moments of rest that I get throughout the day? / am I getting rest throughout the day? Because life is full of balance and we need to prioritize balance and we need to prioritize the moments where we can actually sit and just enjoy peace. And then 3, are we loving God and are we loving others? And that's why I verbally process with other people who know the Lord, because after I got off of that call, I spent the last 2 days processing that conversation. And it made me realize that no matter what I do, even if I do a no-name job in Los Angeles, even if I don't get a roommate and I have to live in an Airbnb, even if I live in a part of Los Angeles that I wasn't really looking to live in, as long as I wake up every single day and I work for the Lord, I love others well, and I enjoy the rest that I'm given, nothing else really matters. And it was a nice reminder as someone who goes on their phone every single day and sees updates about people having their 6-figure business and hitting their biggest sales ever, and their Q1 is so successful and they're their own boss and they're doing great and they worked with these brands and they're going to Paris Fashion Week. And sometimes it's like all this noise and we just need to come back to the basics. And the reality is most of us are living the basics. Most of us get up in the morning, we eat 2 to 3 meals. We interact with a couple other people. We do what needs to get done and we go to bed. And unless God has really put it on your heart to do something crazy and big and phenomenal and groundbreaking, I don't think God is disappointed with your simple every day. And as I practiced praying, going to the word, and verbally processing with a friend, the point it got me to is that if I am heading into a place like LA where everything is go, 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 the best thing I can do is just be restful and learn how to be at peace with where my life is at. So that's my thoughts for today. Thanks for sitting with me for almost I know the last few vlogs have been a little all over the place emotionally. There was a lot of things that I just didn't anticipate about this whole experience. There were things I knew were coming, and then there was a lot of stuff that just came up along the way. So I appreciate that you guys even care about the journey and that you're continuing to follow along, because it has been a lot the last few weeks. And I actually spent this last week just enjoying time with my parents, soaking in our last couple days together. And of course, that was the most peaceful, relaxing, and like not monumentous time. And I didn't really record a lot of that because I just wanted to live in the moment with my family. But we've been enjoying our time. We've been doing a lot of reading at the pool and sitting out on our patio outside of our room. My parents are currently at the spa here at Weston Kierland Villas. My siblings and I gifted my mom for her birthday, but we also gifted my dad just so that they could go and enjoy that together. I would say I'm not going to cry on this vlog, but my mom and dad do leave tomorrow. So I'm unsure how that is going to go. I think that's going to be probably the hardest point for me, because this whole time I have had my dad. I have had some like familial stability. This is the big moment of actually going and relocating. Everything else has kind of just been take it as it comes. And this is the part where things I feel like get more serious, like leaving my parents at the airport and then going, and I'll be moving to California on Saturday. I just got the approval from the owner. We had to go through like a third party group. And so the owner just approved me yesterday morning. And today is Thursday and I leave Saturday for California. So I was hypothetically biting my nails. Well, actually, realistically, I was biting my nails too. I realized a couple things over the last 24 hours. One, I think this entire process is going to be step by step. I really anticipated that the Lord would give me answers for everything. And instead, I think it's like, okay, now a month in, you'll finally get housing. And once I get housing, I think I'll get an answer for a job. And then I think other things will come along. I think it's going to be like step by step, and that's not my ideal, but I'm trying to have peace with it because that's just that's the writing on the wall that I'm kind of seeing. And then it's kind of scary because the last couple weeks have been me applying to jobs, but I was also kind of in the mindset of, oh, I'll get the job once I get there. Like I'll keep applying, but it's not as serious till I land in California, like feet on the ground. And now I'm about to do that in 2 days. So now it's really imperative that I get a job there in order to stay longer than the 2 months. So I just think the next couple days will be hard, right? Like it's saying goodbye to my parents, getting settled in, having to establish a whole bunch of new connections. And I think I said this at the first vlog, and I'll say it again. I know it will be worth it, but I'm just not there yet. Like I'm not at the point where I have the friendships and the groups and the people that I'll miss. And when I talked to Linnea, she said when she moved to California, which I knew this, she didn't have friends in California. She didn't have a group in California. She didn't have family. She didn't have Nick. She didn't have anybody. And she said that she really didn't like it the first couple months. And then now she just moved away, and she was really sad to leave, and they'd established friendships and they had family connections out there, and everything changed in that 7-year time frame. So I know it can for me too. I just am not at that point yet. I'm just at the point where I'm feeling all the depths of emotion. So those things will come and it'll be good. I'm just not there yet. Good morning. It is February 8th, 2025. I am in Gilbert, Arizona, which is a suburb of Phoenix. I'm staying with some family friends, Sheila and Boyd, and I am about to leave for California. I dropped off my parents yesterday morning. I think I keep saying in every vlog that every experience will be the hardest one that I come across, but I do have to admit that yesterday and today are the ones I've been the most scared about. I dropped my parents off at the airport yesterday and there was a lot of tears. You know when you cry so hard that your tears like crust to your face, like you're a crusty piece of baked bread because they're just everywhere and all you're doing is this. It's just messy and it's kind of gross. And I was really going through it for about the first hour and I just was kind of beside myself because I love my family and that was very, very hard. And I knew that was going to be really difficult, but it doesn't matter how much you prepare for something. When the time comes, it still hurts and it's still difficult. There was so much to work through mentally that I went from this deep, deep pit of the stomach, grief crying, to just silence and walking for like an hour, hour and a half. And then I just thought of something funny at one point and I started laughing. I experienced half the feelings of grief in an hour or two. And then around 11:45, I packed everything up. I got out of the hotel by noon. I wanted to go on what I intended was a 1-mile walk. I ended up getting kind of lost in the trail and there were lots of people. It wasn't like I was by myself. I posted some videos on my Instagram story and it looks like I'm just walking a trail in the desert alone. Everywhere else in Arizona, I have noticed when you're driving, the signage here is not great. Unfortunately, on the walking paths and trails, they're very good at signing. But I'm so used to them not being good at signing, I just stopped looking at the signs. I ended up having a great night with Sheila and Boyd. So yesterday was difficult because it was leaving behind people who have meant the most to me in my life in Minnesota. Today is difficult because it is the beginning of meeting people who will mean a lot to me in the future, but are very much strangers right now. And I'm feeling a little apprehensive about having to meet so many new people constantly the next few weeks, and then also dealing with extreme loneliness. And I think the loneliness is different than what I experienced in Minnesota because the loneliness that I would feel in Minnesota was rare, but it was really deep. And it would be like a reminder of like a relationship I don't have, or it'd be a reminder that my friends and I have gone into different stages of life and we can't hang out as much as we used to. Like that type of loneliness was different than being in a room full of people who know each other and you don't know them. So I'm just trying to kind of emotionally prepare myself for that while also keeping rooted with friends and family in the Midwest and also preparing for just whatever is going to come. Because as I said in my last video, it's all about people and I love that. I love people. I actually like meeting new people. I like networking, but I also just like creating new bonds and friendships and having those connections. But nevertheless, it is exhausting and it's a constant newness and there's something beautiful about being known. I wanted to make this portion of the video, number one, just to look back on, and in the future when I have the deep connections and I possibly have the job and I have a more stable house situation and I have all the things that I'm praying about, I can look back and remember a really brave girl who just went and did it, and she had no promises of what was coming, and I think that's really cool to have that documented and to reflect back to. But also I thought this was really kind of a beautiful point from the Lord in terms of history. So in August of 2022, the fog has just lifted on caretaking for my dad full-time and working full-time and just the absolute insanity that was the first half of that year. It's finally starting to clear. My dad is stable. Work starts to become unstable. They did a lot of reorg and they moved me and another coworker from a team we had been on for 4 years to a new team. And if you've watched my YouTube for a long time, you already know the story, you know the whole deal. But I ended up getting moved to a new team and we had new leadership and a whole new group that we were with. And I remember about 2-3 months in, November 2022, we ended up having a meeting. Me and this coworker who got moved from the other team over to this new one, we ended up having a meeting with our new boss, and the meeting did not go well. It was really, really handled poorly, and the situation at hand was not something to have a huge meeting like this about. It was very blown out of the water. And so my coworker ended up leaving. Like within a week, got a new job, she was gone. And I remember being like, no, I think it could turn around. I think it could get better. I think we're just kind of in a moment where two teams are coming together and we're trying to make it work. So I was trying to stick it out a little while longer. But I remember specifically, I was in Arizona with my mom, visiting Sheila and Boyd, who I'm staying with right now. And I was in the other room down the hallway. And I was working while I was here. So I was actively in meetings and doing projects and doing all of that during the day, and then I could shut my brain off and move forward. And I remember it was the Friday before Super Bowl in 2023, because we were here for Super Bowl weekend, not for the Super Bowl because it was in Phoenix. We weren't here for that. But we just happened to be here the same weekend as the Super Bowl was happening in the city we were in. And I remember sitting in the room down the hallway, and my new boss, she pinged me and she was like, can we have a meeting to go over your yearly review? Every other year that I've done a review, I've gotten a glowing review, and I'd advocated for a raise. And so I kind of expected that going into this. Also, as I said, a couple months earlier, we had had this awful meeting. So I was trying to kind of turn things around and just do things the way that this boss wanted me to do them, because I thought that that would help the situation and like our relationship as an employee and leader. And so I was really expecting a great review because I had worked overtime and given my all and really given this boss everything she had asked for and more. And I remember she sits me down on a Friday afternoon after my work hours. I stayed late, and she basically wrung me out to dry, said basically every aspect of the work that I was doing I was not good at or not gifted in, that there were other people on the team who did it better, that I should learn from them because they do it how she wants it done. And she basically gave me what would be equivalent of like failing a test. I failed the review, and I was so confused because I was like, I have given my all to this job, and I'm also the end of the millennial, beginning of Gen Z. So we have been raised to be these like career-driven, strong women, work hard, get your bank type of people. So it's really confusing when you do that for someone and you give your all and you dedicate your time and your life to this other person and how they like things done, and then you get a failing review. And I remember asking her as she was bringing certain situations up, how could I have done that better? What would you have liked me to change about that so I can do better in the future? And she could never give me an answer. She just didn't like how I did it. And I remember getting off of this call and crying. And that was really the beginning of me leaving my corporate job. About a month later, I was in Hawaii with family. I ended up having vacations kind of not back to back, but pretty close together. And it was during the Hawaii vacation that I finally pulled the plug, and I had the plan to exit this role. And I thought I was just going to exit a role for 6 months. This May it'll be 2 years. But I thought there was something really sweet as the Lord let me leave Minnesota on the 13th of January. It had been 5 years to the day since I had prayed over Los Angeles. And then I didn't really understand why he was keeping me in Arizona other than like the fires, obviously. And then I realized yesterday while I was laying down to sleep, I was like, oh, it is the exact weekend 2 years later, to a T, that I'm laying in bed the Friday before Super Bowl, and I'm thinking about my next step of life. And how funny is it that life just comes around that way, and it just revisits you a little bit. And it's so interesting because in that moment in time, I was doing everything that I felt I was supposed to do, and I was miserable. And now I'm sitting in a moment where I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I feel really good. I feel really at peace. I don't have any plan for the next week, let alone the next year, but I feel really content with where life is at, and I feel really content in where I'm heading today, and I have peace about it. And I didn't have that 2 years ago when I was doing everything I was supposed to do, and I had a stable job, and everything was laid out in front of me. It was just a really sweet reflection as I laid in bed last night and thought about this, and I thought I want to get a little moment to film tomorrow morning and just reflect on that and how that changed me. I am about to leave. It is 10 a.m. and I'm about to leave to California, and I will see you all in the next scene of my life.